very long time. Let's take the state of play to the professor, Ron Brownstein, and the one and only Anthony Scaramucci. So, Anthony, you're hearing the same thing that I am, that Trump was being told, hey, what you're doing here is starting to be bad for the brand. How do you square that he's worried about being bad for his brand? I would argue this is his brand, but with what they did today, coming out of the shadows, saying everything is terrible, having proof of none of it.
Yeah, he doesn't think it's bad for his brand. He's pushing back on all those people. It's bad for their brand, but for President Trump, it's not bad in his mind for his brand, because he thinks he's got 25 to 75 million people that are going to follow him around the country after he leaves the White House, and that's why he's doubling and tripling down on this nonsense, Chris. They like it. It's a Duraflame log for conspiracies, and he's a Duraflame log.
That's the best you got? He's a Duraflame log? That's the best you got?
No, I got more. I got more.
That's the best you got, Trump, is a Duraflame log?
I was waiting until I spoke again before I said Happy Thanksgiving to you. I got more in my powder keg.
I'll give you a chance to save it. But let me just go to Ron for a second so you can gather your thoughts. Duraflame log, a ball of wax? Ron.
A WPIX Yule log that we all can remember.
Remember that? That thing never stopped burning.
It burns. Ron, it burns forever. That's the point.
I think Scaramucci was one of those guys.
Thanks for the assist.
You know, he's not helping you. I think Scaramucci was one of the guys who called into WPIX and used to go, picks, trying to shoot down those little spaceships that they used to have on.
I was a Met fan. I was watching WOR. I was a Met fan. I was watching Channel 9.
Back to business. Ron, let's talk demographics for a second. The irony here is that the people who are being hit hardest economically and in terms of health with COVID are places that voted more for Trump. Now, what does that mean for Biden's ability to actually do something for them and expand his own reach?
Right. I mean, the mold in terms of public perception of this was set at the beginning when it was concentrated most heavily in blue cities and places that had greater density. But it has clearly spread all over the country now, and it's just ravaging, what we call Trump country. As you say, it does give Biden an opportunity to deliver for those places in a way that the president is ignoring. I mean, the challenge is going to be to get even Republicans who represent places that are being hard hit to participate in the solution. I was thinking, Chris, this is the greatest domestic challenge we have faced in America, I believe, since Pearl Harbor. And can you imagine if on, say, December 8th, or December 9th, 1941, that the Republican leader in the Senate at the time, who was Charles McNary of Oregon, got up and said, my principal goal in responding to this is to ensure that Republicans win back the Congress in 1942 and Franklin Roosevelt is defeated in 1944. Mitch McConnell has been such a craven partisan that we kind of give him a pass on refusing to even acknowledge that the election has been decided and giving no signal that he is going to work with President-elect Biden on this challenge. But the fact is, history will be looking at him. And can he rise above his partisan past to acknowledge that we are facing a true crisis as a country and that it requires all hands on deck to respond?
Dumpster fire is what you should have gone with, not Duraflame log. You should have said dumpster fire. So what do you think of Ron's point?
Everybody uses dumpster fire.
That's because Duraflame sucks.
I think
that's why nobody uses Duraflame.
All right, I was testing it this afternoon. People did like it in my focus group. Take it easy.
Nobody liked it. Let's talk to the wife.
I do like what Ron's saying. I like the point of what he's saying, and I'm not exactly sure what Senator McConnell is doing behind the scenes. I want to hope and pray that they're going to return to some level of operation in the government. If he pulls the Obama stunt where he only wants them to serve for 4 years, that's going to be a catastrophe for the country in an hour of our need. So I do agree with Ron saying. I guess the problem for Mitch McConnell is he's worried about those 74 million people, guys, that voted for President Trump. He's not exactly sure what to do with those people and how he should handle those people in the aftermath of Trump's departure.
I mean, look, the scary signal to me, Ron, what's your take on this, is that you've got these Republicans, the Rubios, the Cruzes, the Crenshaws, these guys who are not calling him president-elect, saying, we got to let this play out. They know there's no proof. I mean, that does not bode well for what will happen even after this ends, does it? Because it's an ugly pivot for them if they try to become straight.
And not only that, Chris, by allowing and abetting President Trump's baseless claims of fraud, and by allowing this idea to seep in among the Republican Party, 75–80% of Republicans in poll now saying they believe the election was stolen, which is a kind of striking commentary where we are as a country. By allowing that to happen, they are essentially assuring that he remains the dominant force in the party. He will be able to leave office, and most Republicans will believe he didn't lose. It wasn't like he led them into a dead end where he's going to lose by almost 7 million votes. He actually won. And he's only leaving because it was stolen from him. And that, I think, ensures that they will remain under his shadow, under his thumb, and by refusing to confront him now, as throughout his presidency. I mean, you don't get to the kind of egregious chewing up of the rule of law that we saw, like today, with the pardoning of Michael Flynn in a single day. It only happens because at each step of the way, Republicans have refused to confront him, have instead abetted him and moved him, and they are basically guaranteeing more of this, more of him looming over them by their refusal to confront him now as he peddles this kind of stab in the back theory that he's going to be nursing for the next 4 years.
Anthony, you think we're going to get more of the same?
So I'm going to take the other side of Ron on this one. I actually think on January 21st, they're going to slice his throat metaphorically, and they're going to push him out to pasture as hard as possible, because you have all these young Republicans that want to run for president, and Mitch McConnell knows that once he's out of power, he has to dispatch him very quickly. And by the way, Chris, you know the president's personality. I know it very well. The minute he leaves that stage and it's no longer about him, he's not campaigning for other people. He's not going to go to diminishing crowd size rallies for himself. And the bloom will be off the rose, and he'll be 75 years old. So I see this thing ending way more abruptly than other people do. So I'm going to take the other side of that one.
He may feel more comfortable campaigning against than for. I mean, in other words, trying to intimidate Republicans anytime they try to set a different direction. And by allowing his hold on the party to remain so strong, I think they are increasing their risk of that. So we'll
but remember, he's not going to be able to run until 2024. So he's not. Trust me, I know the guy. It's got to be 100% about him 100% of the time. And in the next 2 years, it really won't be, and he'll lose interest. That's just the nature of his personality.
So, Anthony, you don't think he runs in 2024?
A 0.0% chance that he runs in 24. He'll have no standing in the party. The revisionist history people will kick in. He'll lost this thing by 6 or 7 million votes. 5 states flipped as a result of his incompetence. And he's not going to have a chance to run. And you have all of these new players that are going to be entering the space, and they're going to be demolishing him. Once he's weakened and out of office, Chris, they're going to undermine and demolish him.
I don't know. Very few horror movies don't have a sequel. Ron, what do you think?
Hard for him to run,
he is the Freddy Krueger of American politics.
Nah,
I
you already
accept
called
that,
him a
but this is going to end.
Duraflame, cut his throat, push him out to pasture. How do you push a guy out to pasture once you cut his throat? Anyway, go ahead, Ron. The last word to you.
I was going to say, I also think
Ron, be careful. He's like an English teacher now. He's like an English teacher on the show now, Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
I also think it'll be very hard for him to run in the end, but I do think he's going to dangle that possibility, and I do think he will try to intimidate Republicans. And we have to kind of deal with, everybody's been assuming that so many Republicans have been going along with him on this kind of ridiculous fraud claims post-election because they are afraid of him. You have to allow the possibility that a fair number of them may be perfectly okay if he could have found a way to steal the election with him doing so. And again, that is an ominous signal for what the next decade may bring.
Professor Brownstein, always grateful, thankful for you. Best to you and the family. And Mr. Mixed Metaphor, Anthony Scaramucci, you are as handsome as you are helpful. Thank you very much. All love to you and the family. Appreciate you guys, especially the day before Thanksgiving.
Guys.
All the best.